Remember when we watched for the whale, unsteady and queasy on our sea legs, encased in fluttering nylon ponchos for hours on end? And all I could think of was how the engine would be corrupting her peaceful world, how under the boat she'd be shaking her huge head at our persistence, waiting for us to leave, so she could finally come up for air. Like the time I hid in the bookshop, in the do-it-yourself section, wondering if you would try to find me. You searched, but not in the right place. You once said there was an artist inside everyone, waiting for a chance to enthrall. Even the whale has issued a CD of her songs. Some people swear it helps them cope with life. I was shy, a clumsy humpback, or maybe a quiet beluga, while you were the fearless orca. I confess I was pretending to be someone else when I was with you, dreading the day you'd blow my cover, force the real me into the open. Putting an ocean between us helped, its vast saltiness obscuring an uncharted terrain of creatures who scale craters with lantern eyes. Time does not heal, only licks its wounds while observing from a distance. Me in the audience, you in the spotlight. I'd ponder the past from this side of the Atlantic forever if I could, lose my way in murky black currents while the sea turns to white-capped silver jade wherever you are. Not until our feet returned to asphalt did the whale somersault to the surface, her ecstatic leaps like epiphanies, barnacle-jeweled flanks sparkling as they reached the limits of her world. An inverted meteor shooting upward into moonlight, a diva bellowing discordant groans and squeaks in a virtuoso performance liberated by solitude. I met an Italian traveler who was inspired to locate the former home of D.H. Lawrence, a place the great author had once inhabited to cure his tuberculosis. I'd come here to escape the Canadian winter and console myself over the end of a relationship. The two of us walked all over Oaxaca City, map in hand, searching for 43 Avenida Pino Suarez, the Italian declaiming on the audacity of Lawrence, the unlikely genius behind the fiery passion in Lady Chatterley. Wandering among the sweet smell of rot and fish in the market, shops selling Aztec ceramics, sombreros and t-shirts printed with the ruins of ancient Monte Alban, we trailed that stooped Englishman's footsteps all the way to Mitla, where we ate corn tortillas from a kiosk, past the elegant Zocalo to Santo Domingo Cathedral, where a gypsy tried to pickpocket my pink polo-shirted, white loafer-sporting Italian friend, who took countless pictures of mariachi bands in ponchos, elderly women in sunglasses chatting on benches, stray chihuahuas running with feral goats through Mixtec ruins. I'd left my camera at home, hoping to discover if it was true I would recall details more clearly when I didn't see everything through a lens. In the end, we found Lawrence's house, roof gone, windows boarded up, and through a deep crack in the mortar, we could see the inside thickly overgrown with foxtail grass and bladder mallow. My friend complained to police about the neglect shown, the great writer's monument, but I could still envision his desk in a dim upstairs study, the din of the fruit sellers filtering through heavy shutters. I imagined him coughing and catching his breath on a bench in the Zocalo, raking long, sensitive fingers over his scraggly red beard, surrounded by shrieking children, chasing lizards around nopales, one-armed beggars approaching him hungrily, his brilliant, feverish eyes gazing on the distant mountains, occasionally peering downward to scratch a pen across a page in his notebook with the words, "For my part, I prefer my heart to be broken. It is so lovely, dawn kaleidoscopic within the crack." In the end, it wasn't strictly true the bits I remembered were the ones worth remembering, because later the Italian sent snapshots of moments I'd forgotten, such as one of me, sitting in the sun with a corona, squinting at a map upside down, which is how I got lost and how we first met. To arrive there, think of crossing the Sahara in a sand-rusted Land Rover. Think of driving south from Mauritania through harmattan winds, juddering over potholes, listening to Youssou N'Dour on cassette, singing in Wolof to the jittery rhythms of Mbalaks, past destitute villages, patchworked with mud and thatch, thorny acacia and gnarled baobabs resembling trees in a child's painting, set against a slate-gray sky that promises just enough rain to float a horse carcass on a sewage canal and allow a parched chameleon to catch a single drop on its unfurled blue tongue that lashes from the green fruit of the papaya tree, scaled by knobby-kneed boys in torn t-shirts who will eat them no matter how unripe. Continue past the rushing ocean's far-off pink salt mist where the fishermen haul their mended nets from bobbing pirogues, gouged by sailfish swords, past bleating flocks of hobbled rams awaiting slaughter, minibuses dangling gree-gree charms from their bumpers and rear-view mirrors, because here luck is all that matters. Young ticket takers hanging one-armed from the back where the black exhaust belches forth, shouting down the wide Boulevard de la République and the winding Corniche Road with its canopy of flame trees. When I step out from the chill of our air-conditioned car into the soupy atmosphere of Dakar to buy bottled water from a stand, a man walks by, swinging a cage crammed with half-dead songbirds. For 500 francs, you can set one free. Small-scale extortion, but worth it to see the tiny bird first incline its head, then take off in a joyous blur of yellow and red before perching up in the filtered light of a pomegranate tree. Like Youssou N'Dour, way out on stage in his kaftan at the Daniel Serrano Theater, lifting his arms to roaring applause and singing his heart out. I like the word slipper. It sounds benignly subversive. Like the time at university, I carved the word doom into the wooden desk at the Killam Memorial Library, knowing even as I was etching, future students would see it and wonder what strange individual had taken time out from philosophical thought to painstakingly chisel these letters into a piece of furniture, innocently employed in the pursuit of higher learning. Saying slipper makes me feel I can dream, be daring, and never be caught. I could be innocently surveying the landscape, or I could be casing the joint. I am thinking about my slippers, which give me the air of being above suspicion, of having an ironclad alibi. No, I couldn't possibly have done it. I had my slippers on at the time. Only a forensic expert would be able to analyze the plaid textile exterior, vinyl footbed, and rubber sole to identify specks of soured milk, remnants of toothpaste and cat urine, where I'd been and when, if they'd been worn outside in the rain to take out the trash bin, suspiciously stuffed with college essays on the precarious freedom of existential choice, typeface painstakingly daubed with whiteout, old diaries detailing teenage angst, and damaged videotapes containing snatches of a technicolor childhood, no longer visible on a VCR whose tangled wires are splayed out like intestines. Later, I remove my slippers and leave them empty on the varnished pine planks beside my bed, where they sit waiting until I switch off the light and we are cloaked in darkness. This time, slipper brings to mind Sartre's theory of being and nothingness, in which she explains there is no God, there is no afterlife, there is only a swirl of blinding dust and visible materials, alarm clocks ringing incessantly, unable to wake up anyone. I planted a pine tree on my mother's body, decorated it with her criticisms, reminders, and entreaties, all written on bits of paper that dangled like pine cones from the tips of its branches. Can't you just once in your life take responsibility? You look like a hooker. How dare you talk back to me? Owls would roost there, and squirrels raced past each other up and down the rough bark, scolding if I came too close. So I let it grow wild, never trimmed its branches, nor swept up the needles that fell copiously to the ground like rusty fur. My mother's words, too, became tattered and faded as they made their way up the trunk higher and higher as the tree stretched skyward, so I could barely make out the white fluttering shapes. The more years went by, the more bristling, crooked, and gnarled it became. It was even a bit stooped at the top, and at night I would hear it bend and groan. Mornings breathe in its sharp, clean scent. One November there was a terrible storm. The tree cracked to its core, topmost branches crashing to the ground, where I found them the next day, broken, motionless like corpses. I gathered up all the shriveled slips of paper in my arthritic fingers, put on my bifocals, and looked at the barely legible words I didn't recall writing. I was afraid to show affection. Forgive me. And look at that moon. Did you ever see so many stars?